Hey everyone, this is Josh from the Sideshow, and we got really lucky tonight to have the Bag of Lies women, leading a panel for us about uh, my side project is my side chick. I think it's gonna be a really interesting discussion, and really excited to have them on board. I'm gonna let them go ahead and introduce their panelists.
Sweet. Hey everyone.
Hey guys, thank you for the intro, Josh. And it's your girl Malika.
And it's me. And it's me, Sharina.
And we're Bag of Lies. And most of you guys know us as the podcast.
We are. So for those of you who don't, which probably isn't very many of you, but we have a podcast called Bag of Lies that explores identity and community through the lens of the harmless white lies that we all tell. And we started this podcast about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. Malika and I were in a coffee shop. I know. I kind of snuck up on us. Yeah, Malika and I were in a coffee shop kind of shooting the shit and thinking about potential side project ideas. And then
I needed coffee. So I went and I got coffee, and I really liked the coffee girl, but I gave her like my fake coffee name, Emma. And then I felt really bad about it because I was like, man, me and this girl could have really been friends. But here I go starting off the relationship with just lying. And then I told this all to Sharina, and she was like, girl, bye. I lie all the time too. And I was like, what? And then she told me her stupid lie. What's your lie, Sharina?
So I lie, or back when we were still able to get into Uber safely, I would lie to most Uber drivers and tell them that I was divorced, even though I've never been married. And it was just a thing that I did that kind of started from trying to connect with one Uber driver, and then I just kind of carried it on. And then Malika and I just literally went back and forth about all the lies that we tell.
And it was not great. Like the problematic, like, oh man, I got a whole family that my wife don't know about, or like nothing crazy, but just like the lies that we would tell just in order to like connect with people, or when we were like in weird, uncomfortable situations. And so we use this, this lens of white lies to really explore the world that we live in. And they reached out to us, the Sideshow Project, because Bag of Lies is a side project, and they're like, hey guys, do a panel for us. And so we were like, oh yeah, we know for sure there are some people out here doing side projects and lying about them. And so that's why we have this panel called, my side project is my side chick, because all of us, we have our day-to-day 9 to 5 working in advertising, but we definitely have a little bit on the side. And so we have these wonderful panelists with us here today to talk about their side projects / side chicks.
Yeah. So Reesa, why don't you kick us off? Tell us, your thing. What are you working on? Your side project, your hustle. Yeah, tell us your story.
Yeah, so hi guys, I am Reesa. I am the owner of Poppy Bagels based out of Oakland, California. I started Poppy Bagels probably as a legitimate company about a year and a half ago. But I had been baking bagels and working on bagels for about 5 years. So it was a hobby turned side hustle. And now, as of 3 months ago, full-time job. So I used to work at GS&P. I worked there for over 5 years and quit 3 months ago to take my side hustle into a full-time hustle. Haven't looked back. It's been a wild 3 months, but definitely did some lying while it was my side hustle at GS&P, and still lie a little bit today, but I try and be honest mostly. I think it's good to kick off the business on an honest note, but there's some small lies that I tell too.
We love it. We love it, Reesa.
Yeah.
And your side project side chick is not your main chick. Okay. And you had to do a lot of lying to get there, girl. I'm ready to dive into that.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah. I mean, I think I did a lot of lies by omission, honestly. So and this actually escalated for sure during the pandemic. But we were home. I was able, I had some extra time. I could bake while I was home. And so a lot of the time I would be on client calls. I mean, this definitely happened like weekly, and I would be baking bagels. I remember being doing a delivery run and being on a client call and having to like, you know, kick some work off and really just like taking it to the max. I don't know, to me it felt like a lie, but it was kind of a lie by omission. It was like, oh no, I'm here, I'm present, but definitely doing both things at once. At the same time, I do feel lucky. My team at GS&P was surprisingly supportive and knew about the business pretty early on. So my boss at the time was like my number one customer. She also ended up telling Derek, the president of Goodby, about my bagels and making me give him bagels, which I was like totally mortified. And so, yeah, she was announcing it from the rooftops. I absolutely would not have done that. But she did it for me. So she kind of eased it for me. And then even today, I think, you know, I was thinking about lies, and like I said, I'm trying to be an honest businesswoman, but one of the things that I do lie about, and it was a tip I think I heard from another entrepreneur, but I love to use the royal we. So it's a one woman shop. It's me. I am literally doing everything. I am doing the baking, the deliveries, the PR, like everything, the accounting, I mean. But I often, when people email me, I like to say, oh yeah, we'll get right back to you, or like, oh, let me check in with the team on that. So just to sound a little bit more legitimate.
Well, we love it. We love to see it. And you're getting so much love from all your bagel fans in the comments.
Oh, they're the best. I was ignoring them while I was talking, but now I'm gonna look because I love a compliment.
All right. And our girl Leeya, tell us about yourself and all your side hustles, girl.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Leeya Jackson. I'm an art director by day at White and Kennedy, New York. I've been an art director for like 6 years. And my side hustles are, I have a design shop called Noisemakers Design, and it's basically aimed at making design projects for BIPOC or femme-owned, LGBTQ-owned small businesses or organizations. So I do primarily like branding design and logo design for that. I also do some directing work. I'm just easing into that, but for the past few years, I've been doing like a few projects here and there as a director. I'm an illustrator. I illustrate primarily for my Instagram and for my sanity, but I also have an online shop where I put all my illustrations on like a Society 6 page. And I'm running a foundation called For Our Magic, which is providing like free beauty products and self-care products to Black and brown femmes who just want to be able to have frivolous things. And a lot of times Black women, especially, we don't like to like buy things for ourselves or feel like we deserve or like can spare buying things like beauty products. So me and my best friend have created For Our Magic so that we could just continually raise money and then send out these boxes and bags to women who want to, you know, pamper themselves. I feel like I'm missing something. I think those are the main ones. That's also
the main one.
On a podcast network where I'm developing a new podcast. Sharina and I used to be on the podcast together. Hey. So this is her new
That's true. I was my second wife.
I was the first wife. But, yeah.
I'm the new wife.
Yeah.
The new side piece.
You are the upgrade. It's like one of those times where it's like, you know, I respect it.
You're not mad at it.
It's okay. It's like you didn't go to somebody basic after me. That's good.
But Leeya, how many? So honestly, in total, how many side projects do you have?
I don't know. I lie about this all the time, so I don't know. I lie to myself about it. I would say 10. I would say 10, but it's also constantly evolving. And underneath noisemakers, I would say I have about 10 clients at any given time. I'm not always doing stuff for them, but they'll just pop up every once in a while, like, hey girl, we need X, Y, and Z. Or I'm like, onboarding somebody or offboarding somebody, but I'll say it averages around 10 clients. And with that, it's like I'm at the point where it would probably make more sense for that to be my main chick, except for the type of clients I want to work with are kind of like lower income. They don't have no money, or they have like $5 type of things, but I feel like whatever they're doing is dope and they deserve, elevated design. So yeah, that was the thought process behind noisemakers. But yeah, I don't know. 10. It's probably a lie, but 10.
Okay, and you were saying that the biggest lie about your side hustles is how many you have?
That's not the biggest. I would say it is a big lie though. Like I literally, yeah, I would say it's 10. 10. I like the number and the evenness of it. So 10. I would say another lie is just like what I'm doing at what time. And I think in a lot of ways, COVID has helped me shape that and like use this time in a way that, especially with my job being primarily remote, I can work and set my schedule and somehow make everything get done at a pace that I don't think that I would have been able to do or handle if this was a year ago. And I had to be in the office. So yeah, that's the second lie where I'm like, yeah, I'm clocking in 9 to 5, but I'm not paying.
Honestly, I feel like everyone is taking advantage. It's a new world now working remotely. You kind of can set your own hours and work on things at your own pace versus like if you're in the office and you have a side project, it's a little harder to work on, to meet up with your side chick. You can't really do that as much when you
go into
gotta
those
be
small little side conference rooms and
oh my gosh, yes.
look like you're, at least as a creative, I could go and be like, I'm concepting. Not.
Either that or just like the really quick side swipe where like all of a sudden you're just on a completely different screen, like nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. Inaki, tell us about yourself. What are you working on?
Hi, my name is Inaki, but my coffee name is Joe. I think we all share that when we go to Starbucks, spelling our name is a must based on the different interpretations of the barista to our name. But anyway, Joe, Inaki Escuderu. I was fascinated by the stories that you guys are saying. I was running through what I was going to say in my mind. It's like, okay, well, I hope that I can be as fascinating as you are. It really is interesting that 10 years ago, working as a copywriter in advertising full time, always from brief to brief, from meeting to meeting, and you get home exhausted. You want to do things that are not restrained by account services or clients or timelines, because you want more. You are not done. Your creativity is kind of coming out of your pores, and you want to do something meaningful beyond promoting the business of our clients. And so I was fascinated by the idea of what can I do. And ever since then, I don't think I have stopped doing side projects that became eventually my life. And I think my life today is a consequence of just not being satisfied with the work that we are told to do, and always looking for what, if I could do anything, what I would be doing right now. And by answering that question about 4 years ago, my wife and I and 5 kids decided to live like nomads, go around the world. We were very privileged that by that time we were already working on the cloud in education. So whenever we were needed somewhere, we will just go to that place. So we sometimes manage to mix work with the travel. Sometimes, my wife stay with the kids in, let's say, and I'm gonna sound but I want to make it interesting. My wife was in Ibiza in the Mediterranean, while I had to go to Tallinn, Estonia, to a conference about the future of work. And then 3 days later, we will meet in the south of France. And it sounds very appealing, but there were so many logistic details that if you are not good at that, and I'm not good at that, it just consumes 40% of your brain. Like, where are the tickets? Is the train leaving at this station or another station? And so many times we make a lot of mistakes. Anyway, so as a consequence of living as a nomad and visiting different places, we decided to spend a lot of time researching the future of education. And one thing we discovered by visiting schools and talking to parents and kids and teachers, educators, anybody who wanted to spend half an hour with us talking about education, we will go. And that was a good motivation to go to Tallinn, Estonia too. So we discovered early on that one of the key elements of education at the early age is for parents to trust the abilities of our kids. I think we've heard a lot about helicopter parentings and tiger moms and the idea that we are not giving half the freedom that we had when growing up to our kids today. Because perhaps we are more aware of the dangers outside, or maybe we've watched way too many movies. But the idea is that our kids are not growing up with the same freedom that we had to explore the world. And that's also related to maybe we don't trust that they can handle it. So we started a side business, my wife and I, where we train parents to have the confidence to let go of their kids. And I'm not talking about literally let go. I'm talking about let go emotionally and intellectually. So that's what we are doing right now.
Oh, I was going to be like, are you freeing them to the wild? Like,
yeah, the forest.
Provide a service where we just drop them in the middle of the forest and let them go.
It's called like the Rambo education, a knife and the forest.
The book Hatchet just came to mind.
Yes. And fun fact, you guys, Inaki, he's talking so much about education. He's actually, a former teacher of mine from ad school. So he is a lifelong educator. It's awesome having you guys, all of you guys on this panel. You guys have such different experiences, and you all are in different places in your life. Inaki, you've spent so much time in advertising, and now you're working on your side project, but you brought your family into it. And Reesa, you've recently, just within the last couple of months, made the jump from working full-time, and now you're, working full-time with your side project. And Leeya, you are just managing to find more hours in the day than Beyonce. I don't really know how you do it. I tell me your secret. Like,
help us all.
I'm saying that I don't.
You do. Oh my gosh.
So one question I have for all of you guys, because you all have this advertising background, and we always hear the same narrative about side projects, and that it's crucial to creatives and it's crucial to people in advertising. Do you feel like, as a person working in advertising, that you should always have a side project, or should this just be something optional for someone? Maybe someone wants to dedicate their life to really like their day job. Or do you think it's important for people to have, side projects outside of their 9 to 5?
I will start. I think it's important. I think I wouldn't be as far in my career. Even like, I don't think that Wyden would even have known about me if it weren't for the side projects that I've done, to be honest. Like, and I think I realized pretty early on that the path of like the traditional path of an art director, creative, and advertising wasn't one that was like really carved for somebody like me. It was carved for like white men, like straight white men. And yeah, you can like go up the ranks and like play the same game, but also the way that industry was set up also has changed and evolved so much that I don't know if it makes sense for somebody to like just fully devote themselves just to like being a creative within the advertising structure as it is right now. I think I think all of us should be like figuring out ways to like use our creativity in different capacities outside of the walls of the place you work. And I think it was especially important. Like I found my own confidence and voice from the projects I did outside of work. And then that started to show within the projects I was doing within work. And so I think it became more of a like symbiotic thing. But I definitely, I think, yeah, the biggest turn I made was just being like, okay, I'm gonna stop waiting just to ask for permission to do things, and I'm just gonna start making stuff outside, which is why like my name and like everything's like Leeya makes noise or noisemaker, because it's like the biggest comment I would always get, especially like aesthetically, was that my stuff was too loud. But then I found that the more I did things outside of work or outside of the structures of, you know, a traditional, because it probably was, and it probably was, and it was too loud for, yeah, if I'm working for like Silk Almond Milk, like it's too loud for them. But in terms of like its place in the world, it had a place in the world, and I never would have knew that unless I stepped outside of, creatively outside of the structure of advertising. So I think it's super important, and not just for creatives. I think for anybody, especially any people of color, anybody who's trying to work within the industry, I think you should have something that you feel more passion for, and attach that passion to something outside of the job, because the job is changing and evolving. It could be done. People be talking about how this industry might die every day. Okay, I'm rambling, but yeah, I think it's important.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, I wasn't in a creative role at the agency. I was in the account department. I fell into that work. Actually, I didn't plan on going into advertising. I didn't study advertising. I knew nothing about agencies. I really knew nothing about advertising. But I got the job and I loved it for so many reasons. And you know, one of those reasons was, okay, maybe I don't think of myself as a creative person, but I get to work with in a creative industry with creative people. Like that's so wonderful and awesome. And there were great, I was surrounded by amazing people and I was learning so much and it was wonderful. But I think, you know, I will say I don't think the same expectation was set on me to be creative outside of work. I never felt that pressure. So it's interesting to hear you guys kind of talk about that, and it just didn't even occur to me. But I think that, you know, eventually after a certain amount of time, I was like, okay, maybe this isn't my forever job or forever career, and what could that be? And I think I was inspired by all the creative people around me to really follow my passions and interests. So I think it, you know, served me really well at the end of the day, and I bring so much of my experiences in advertising to Poppy Bagels now. But I don't, and I would encourage anyone that wants to and has a side hustle or has a side interest to pursue it. But personally, being in a non-creative role, I didn't feel that same kind of expectation or pressure to be creative outside of work. I think it was kind of like assumed that I wasn't, which is interesting.
I think that there is an explosion of creativity all over the world because we have the technology and the channels and the audience to feel very confident doing all the things that we want to do that are not necessarily what our job description is supposed to guide us to do. I've met directors of agencies 60 years old that have incredible Instagram accounts dedicated to, I don't know, incredible things. I've met people who you will never expect because they don't have the creative in their title description. That you cannot believe all the things they are doing, and I'm always surprised by how much people are taking advantage of everything at our hands to really be creative, because at the end of the day, that was always the question mark, right? Why do we have the creative in our title and nobody else in the world does, right? So I think it's an equalizer, and I'm so happy that it's happening.
Awesome. I'm supposed to be moderating, but I actually have a really unpopular opinion that I'm just going to throw in before I ask the next question. I actually don't think that people should have side hustles. Not in general. Not in general. I mean, like, obviously, yes, people should have side hustles. I actually think, like, one thing that I really dislike is when people force the side hustle. Like, if you have a good idea, do it. Don't have a side hustle just to have a side hustle. You know, like, we didn't have a podcast to have a podcast. We had a podcast because, like, we stumbled upon something that we thought was really interesting. We weren't just like, we're going to make a podcast. What's it going to be about? Movies. No shade to people who have movie podcasts. That's cool too. One of my favorite podcasts is a movie podcast. I don't know why I said that. Anyways, so.
Well, actually, I want to add on to that, Sharina, because yes, it is an unpopular opinion. And I think people need to, the thing with side projects and side hustles is you really have to ask yourself, why are you doing this? Why are you, embarking on this, side project? Are you doing it because you're just trying to get noticed and you're doing it explicitly for like awards and just to advance? Or are you doing something because you want an outlet aside from the projects that you're working on in your day-to-day to help you craft your creativity, to craft your skills? Or is this because it's a passion for you? And I think, you can tell the authenticity. You can look at someone's, side project Instagram page and be like, that's BS. They're doing it just for awards. And you can look at someone's, and you can look at someone else's, podcast and be like, oh, they lit, they love this, they're having a good time, And I think, if you're going to embark on like side projects and side hustles, like you should really, if you want like a genuine like audience and following, it should come from an authentic place. And I think the value that you can get from a side project is there, but as long as you're doing it, for the right reasons.
Yeah, because then it can be more about like, the things that Leeya was talking about, like just confidence building, or Reesa was saying, where you're like looking outward and it's like, oh, there's something else outside of this advertising world that I can do. So then it isn't just like for show, really.
Yeah.
Okay, so we had a question. How do you guys make time for your side hustles? Like,
I assume it's a lot of lying involved. No, but genuinely, I feel like, a lot of people have to work on their time management, but I'm interested to hear, especially from Leeya, who has mastered, figuring out how to, maximize her day. How do you make time for your side hustles, girl?
Yeah.
I would say the primary thing that there's a few things that have shifted and changed and make it possible. And let me start this with, I be tired all the time. So let me start this point with like, yes, everything can get done and I can eventually hit everything. I think the biggest thing is, but I'd still be tired. The biggest change that has happened is that I have just gotten faster at everything I do. And I think I don't know if that was like something that I necessarily like trained myself to do or anything, but I think it's just like a thing that comes with experience. But something like a branding project in the past that would have probably been like a week of my time, devoted time, now is something that I can accomplish within a few days. And obviously like there's going to be rounds and stuff of like feedback and everything, but I'm just in general, like when it comes to just like the skill of designing and the skill of how to think about a project and like where to, like just how I want to execute it in the visualization, I'm just quicker at it. And that's with my side projects. And then that's also within my actual like day job, things that I was still figuring out in my first few years. I've just gotten better at, and I've gotten faster at it, and I think I've gotten more like honed in. And I think that's mainly due to just like having a bunch of good mentors and people and creative directors who were tougher on me or like guiding me and helping me and giving me tips on stuff. And I know that for me, even in terms of just art direction, I feel like I still have so much to learn. Like I still don't think that I'm like fully creative director level yet. Because I just feel like there's so much that I just don't know still. But I would say that has been my biggest advantage. Like that's how I've been able to just tackle on more things. Secondly, I don't have no family. I don't have no kids. I have a partner, but he don't demand nothing to me. I don't have no, like, I have so much privilege in terms of my own time and being able to like regulate my own time. So I think that's another thing. And I just don't sleep as much as other people, probably. I do sleep on the weekends and I sleep in, but I think on my like normal week to week, I probably am, I wake up around like 9 a.m. and then in bed most days like 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. So yeah, that's my secret.
I was wondering what you were going to say about the sleeping. I go to sleep like around 11 and I wake up at 5.
You go
And
you go
I
to
go
sleep
to-
at 11 p.m. and then wake up
Yeah.
at 5 a.m.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, you don't get any sleep. Oh.
It's very little, but you know what? I don't miss the. I think once you start having kids, the idea that you're gonna sleep a lot is just gone. It disappears from your concept. But I was thinking that the the one secret I have that I don't think is transferable, unfortunately, is a lot of confidence that everything is gonna be okay. That I've been in so many situations where I needed to write copy in 1 hour, that we needed to present to the client in 2 days, that the agency was going to close unless we won that pitch in 1 week over Christmas. That right now everything compared to that is like, yeah, everything is gonna be okay. Don't worry, things are gonna be fine. So it's just a lot of confidence in that whatever it needs to be done, it can get done.
So you a diamond, you work well under pressure. Like
I mean, you have to. You have to.
That's crazy. Yeah. I love that everyone's giving their hours of going to bed and waking up. That's like very practical and I like it. I like knowing that. Practically I just woke up earlier. So when we were in the office, I would wake up at 3, bake, pack everything. I did a lot of office catering at the time when people were in offices. So I would deliver, set up, and get to work at 9. And I had this whole day before the work day started. And I just did it because it was the only way of doing it. Like there was no other way to get it done. And I think that's like, I'm not a morning person. I love my downtime. And I think that's when I did that a couple times and I just did it, I realized like, oh, I must really love this because why I would never do this if I didn't. Mm-hmm. And it kind of was like happened the opposite way. It reinforced, it helped me really understand how passionate I was about it. I think like the proof is in the pudding or whatever. But at a certain point, and you have to say no sometimes to plans with friends, like the night before a big production. Like literally, when I say production, I don't mean production advertising. I mean like making bagel production. But I, wouldn't be able to do things with friends. And it was like true sacrifices in that way that again felt worth it. I will say though that there was a tipping point for me. And I think like the 10th time I cried to my partner in the car, like being so overwhelmed about just like everything and not like actually not feeling like there were those hours in the day. I think it was time for me to make a decision, is this going to be a side hustle and am I going to just treat it like that and kind of tone it down a little bit and have a more balanced life, or am I going to quit and try it full time? So there was a breaking point for me, but I definitely pushed the limits of it for a while. Yeah.
I feel like I'm under no illusion that what I'm doing currently is sustainable. Yeah. I'm under like zero illusion. I think I'm more just like, okay, it's working for right now.
For now.
The moment where I feel the turn is the moment where I feel like as long as I'm setting the pieces to have choices, you know, then I can make the choice when it comes. Theoretically, I'm a Libra, so I'm probably going to still be indecisive.
But the decision really does like come to you. Like it will find you, you know. I don't really think you have to like you said, like plan it out really. It's like you'll know when it's time and you just will. I don't know how else to explain it.
I love that you brought that up, because one of the questions we wanted to ask you guys was, you know, sometimes when we're working on side projects, we can feel like this is our baby and we're not ready to share that thing in the world. And I just want to know, so when did you guys feel like it was the right time to announce that, hey, I'm working on this thing? Or you reached out to, you know, collaborators to help you build the world that you're working on? Or did you feel like you had to be secretive or, you know, try and hide what you were doing with your side project?
I can tell you what it seems like a long time ago now, maybe 2011, at the agency in New York City. We figured that the New York subway system didn't have a Latino letter like the ñ, for example. So if you are familiar with the Spanish, the ñ is the N with the tilde on top. So we created posters and plastered the posters in some lines and stations in New York City, announcing, making it look very official, that the N line was going to be named the ñ line for the Hispanic Heritage Month. And we did, you know, of course, they were taken down as soon as we put them up, and we weren't discouraged. We continued to do it in different stations. And, you know, it started to make some noise. Some stations started to talk about it, radio stations, newspapers, especially the Latino ones who were very proud that this was happening. And I remember being in a break during a shoot with our client. And this is the biggest client for the agency, and this that tense relationship with the biggest client of the agency. You love them and you hate them. And at one point, he's like, you know, I was in the subway today and I saw this incredible idea by somebody, I don't know who, but I love the idea. And what I wonder is, why aren't you guys coming up with this type of ideas? And of course, at that time, we all looked at each other, like, should we tell him? Should we tell him? And we decided not to tell him. We decided, you know what, screw you. If that's what you think about us, you'll never know that this is sadly the people sitting in front of you, the one that came up with the idea. Anyway, just made you feel better. But it made you feel better that we didn't tell him. To tell you the truth, to this day, when we meet, we continue to talk about that.
I can't believe you had enough restraint not to tell him. That's
I know.
amazing. I can't believe it.
I know. I know. And the coincidence that he will even make it personal, right? Like, why aren't you guys coming up with these ideas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway.
Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think this question really depends on what it is and like how you handle feedback and advice and things like that. I mean, for me, it was once I could get something out of people, I guess, or like benefit from telling them. So once I had a product I was pretty happy with and like almost ready to sell, that was the right time. Because I could sell it to them, I could start making money, they could give me constructive feedback. I think if I'd shared it earlier on, it might have spooked me or overwhelmed me. You know, it was just this baby that I was passionate about and I wanted it to be perfect. And I think that telling people too early, I think they would have had all these expectations that they would have like put on me, and I am not good at handling that. So I kind of needed to like prove it to myself, have something to share, and then it kind of went from there. And I also let other people talk about it a lot, which was kind of nice in my case. Again, this feels like specific to my business, but I just let other people like tell other people about it. And I'm not good at self-promotion, clearly. So that I'm coming at it from that angle, but yeah.
Yeah, I would say the only time I was like hesitant was the first big like side project, which is the project that Sharina and I had, which was Borrowed Interest. And it was only because the subject matter of the podcast was about being a woman of color in advertising. Mm-hmm. And obviously with that, you're going to have to be dropping truth bombs. You're probably going to be talking about like in code, the agency that you're at. And so like, there was like some hesitation. I don't think I ever like just like sat down anybody at my agency was like, I'm making this podcast and it's going to be about this and X, Y, and Z. I just was like, I just like, you know, did the thing and we put it out. And then it was from there, they just all happened to be excited about it. So that was the only time I ever felt like hesitation or felt the need to like not hold it back, but like just not like promote it. Not that I go around, I don't know, like I feel like since then it's like I don't really like push out that I'm doing certain things except for in like the welcome email of when they say explain what you do and the stuff you're working on when you start a new job. So other than that, I don't go around and be like, hey, you all, I'm doing X, Y, and Z. I don't know why. I think it's just more so like I'm okay with them being separate worlds with some overlap. Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
It sure does.
Okay, can't remember the question.
Well, you know, Reesa said something, you know, self-promotion is hard. And it's hard for a lot of people. But Reesa, don't feel bad, girl, because your bagels speak for themselves.
Oh. So. You did
and all
it
the work.
I feel like everybody has clearly had these bagels except for me, and I'm jealous.
I haven't.
Okay. No. You got to send us bagels so that we can.
Yes.
I would just buy some. Do you ship them?
No.
Oh.
maybe for you guys.
Okay, so before we go into Q&A, which by the way, if anybody has any questions, hit up that Q&A button, ask your questions, and then we can ask our panelists. So how has, and we kind of touched on this before, but like how has work from home shifted the way that you kind of side hustle? I know Inaki, you kind of did the whole digital nomad thing, so it'd be really interesting to hear your perspective. But yeah.
I mean, I've seen a lot of pictures of, you know, people on Zoom, and behind the background is like a big mess, you know, kids running and playing. And that's basically the way we've done it. I've had so many meetings in places that I'll be ashamed to admit to anybody that I was there having important meetings with clients or teaching a class online, or I don't know. It's just, I guess the skill I have developed in the last 10 years is to feel comfortable feeling very uncomfortable, and don't sweat the small stuff, you know, it is what it is. And there's nothing you can do about it. Embrace it and move forward, you know?
What's the question?
Work from home.
Were you gonna say something, Leeya?
Yeah, I would pick up. I would say that, like I said this before at the beginning, that the whole working remotely thing has really allowed me to take on more things than I probably would have. But I started this year kind of with a manifestation in my head that I wanted to work remotely. It was just before the pandemic or anything hit, and it made it actually like a necessity. And that we were joking on the podcast version of this episode that I was like, I didn't mean to manifest it. That I was manifesting that I wanted to find a system where I would be able to work remotely and still stay. I'm currently in Minneapolis, but take on this new job in New York and still be able to, like I said, use my schedule the way that I wanted to. But I didn't mean for a pandemic to come along with it. So I think in a lot of ways, you have to find moments of gratitude in a time like this. So I do feel like a lot of gratitude in the fact that I'm now getting a taste of what I was kind of envisioning, because I really was at a crossroads where I was like, okay, noisemakers, I got an LLC for it and everything. I'm official. and I'm taking on more directing jobs. And I have all these other dreams and things that I want to potentially do. And like, I have classes I want to take. Will I be able to do this without some sort of remote situation or work from home situation? I think the one thing I do miss is the feedback, like the direct feedback and like the creative spirit of just literally going to look at somebody else's screen, like another designer screen, and being like, oh, that's cool, what you working on? Or seeing like stuff up on a wall that another team is working on. Or like I right now, I've never worked in the office of Wyden and Kennedy. So I don't know what it's like to like, roam around and like see what other teams are working on there. So I do miss in a lot of ways, because I'm a extroverted introvert. I miss the dynamic of like the culture of working with other creative people and other people in general, like other thinkers directly. But that being said, I still feel a lot of gratitude because I've been able to figure out the flow of what I want to do. And so by the time if everything opens up, I wouldn't feel like I was pressured into completely uprooting my life and stopping everything I had going on here to move for this new job. So I think, yeah, that's been my experience with working from home.
Yeah.
I'm going to drink wine now.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I got mine too.
Oh my God. I did not get the memo.
Inaki too.
Okay, I feel left out also, Reesa, because I thought about it, but was like, no, I'm gonna be on a panel. I'm profesh. I got water.
It is profesh. But yes, please.
Fresh. I was just gonna say briefly that I also feel grateful for it. I mean, actually, it was pivotal to my business taking off, and really propelled it forward. I mean, like I was selling bagels to people at the office and doing some office catering, but as soon as shelter in place happened, I mean, I stopped baking. I was like, this isn't the right time. No one wants bagels. And then people started reaching out to me, and it turned out that it was the best thing for the business because I could get more bagels to more people. They were home. They had nothing to do, nothing to look forward to, and so welcomed me coming with this treat, and it's very much like a comfort food for people and a nostalgic food maybe for some. So it really was just, it fit into people's lives so much more easily. And I was just able to go out on these deliveries. It was nice for me too, because like even from a distance, I got to see people, I got to see coworkers. It was just this really wonderful thing. But anyway, I never planned on doing deliveries. I never thought that was a way that I would distribute the bagels. And now I would say that like 70% of my sales are deliveries. So it fundamentally changed how I approach this, and it allowed me to reach so many more people. So, I mean, I see the silver lining in it. I'm grateful for this change and this shift. I think it's kind of like it kind of pressed fast forward for me a little bit on the business and where I would be actually.
I feel you, girl. It's been a blessing in disguise for a lot of us. Yeah. So with that, I'd like to, kick off our Q&A section. We're getting a lot of questions from our audience. Thank you guys for sending us your interesting question. Madison Cameron, oh, my girl, she has a question. Does a side hustle have to inherently earn you money? What role could side passions play as a sideshow side chick? So do we do it for money or do we do it for passion? I think that's at the core of her question.
As I said earlier, noisemakers, it makes me money, but it doesn't make me as much money as like obviously I think it could if I changed the model of what I wanted to do, but in general, I really felt like I wanted to have equitably priced and affordable design options for people. So, and then there's a bunch of things that I do that I still kind of consider side hustles that don't make me any money. Like right now, I've been writing a lot. I've been in a screenwriting class to potentially write a screenplay that will probably never ever get produced. So I don't think that that's something that would make me money unless it's one of those like, you know, the 0.01% of screenplays that actually gets produced. So I think they're still legit. I think it's as long as it's something that you feel passionate about and that you feel like is giving you some sort of like money doesn't have to be the only thing or thing that is like, what am I trying to say? Money is not the only thing that's like a thing that can give you like energy or some sort of sustenance. And so, yeah.
I love that. Yeah. And then, you know, Graham North also asked an interesting question coming off of that. He asked, feels like it's hard to go from the world-class production value of the stuff we make as a giant, you know, ad teams. We have so many resources at our fingertips. And then to go from these big budgets to being scrappy, using our own funds and having to make the good enough versions to get side hustles out. How do we deal with putting things out that aren't always up to the same quality bar that we expect them to be?
Anybody else want to go?
I can answer that.
Okay, Malika, go ahead.
It's hard. It is so hard. But you know what? You know, perfection is the enemy of getting things done. And you can always scale things up as you learn and as you grow, but don't let perfection get in the way of starting your dreams, because you're literally we all have to start from somewhere and we can always end up, you know, somewhere else. But Inaki, you also want to answer this question too. So I'll give you that opportunity.
I was going to say, if we have discovered anything in the last 10 years is that we didn't need $1 million budget to make a TV commercial, and we didn't need $20,000 to do a photo shoot. We have learned that we can do incredible productions with very low resources, and the world is going to accept it as great. So that's one of the challenges the advertising industry faces right now, that the bar was very high, but was fictitious. It didn't need to be that high.
Yeah, I mean, look at TikTok. I mean, the quality of the content on TikTok is like literally by 16-year-olds shooting videos in their bedrooms.
It's true.
And it's
the best content out there. It is the best content out there. Yes. So kind of dovetailing nicely into the following question that Cassidy had asked. Cassidy Wilbur asks, I feel like a side hustle often has an expectation of being perfect or right. Where did your confidence come from to put what you were doing out into the world? Where'd you get that confidence?
I think it's the same thing that, that we all just were saying and head nodding to. It's just about like what the core of the idea is, and kind of trusting that, I think. And then it's not that you are 100% confident. It's just like, you just reach a point where you're just like, well, I care more about this thing being out there than I do if weather is perfect. I remember when the Borrowed Interest podcast launched, and like it was the first, like, again, I'm keep going back to that because that was the first time where I really had to like felt like I was doing something outside of work. So it was scary in a lot of ways. And I remember being like, I was like in a friend's office, or maybe it was a creative director's office, and I was just like, and they were like, what are you scared about? And I was like, I'm scared about 3 things. I'm scared that I'm scared of 3 different options. A, it's bad and it blows up. I'm scared B, it's good and nobody ever hears it and just like whimpers and dies. Or I'm scared of C, can't remember the third option. I was actually scared that it was good and it would blow up. So I think
that was the third one. I remember that conversation. It was
because I think I was having that conversation with like everybody. I was like, and that feeling has never gone away. When I press post on anything, I feel that way always. But I think you just get tougher at being like the important thing is the making of the thing, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but I just have to feel like I did everything I could to push it to where I wanted it to be, and that's just it. And that's just like where I have to like land on, and feel good about. And then once it's out in the ether, it's out there, and then that's the world, baby. You take it and you do whatever they can react to it however, but the only thing you have control over is from A to post. So that's the only thing that I don't know, like that you can like control in any way. So once things are out in the world, it is what it is. But you just get better at being like, okay, is this good enough for me? Do I like this myself? So post.
And it just feels good to like get something out in the world at a certain point. Like the actual doing of it, like that's such an accomplishment. Like the first bagel I sold was such an accomplishment. I made my friends write me a check so I could have it. I never deposited it, but like I have that check on my fridge just because it was like, oh my God, I did this thing. It was a milestone. Even if I never sold another bagel, like I had done it. I had sold a bagel, and like that was really cool. And it was didn't taste anything like they taste now, So I think it's just like I didn't realize how good that would feel until I did it, because I was so protective and so nervous, and then it was worth it. So at a certain point, you just have to like try.
I love that because you have big Google energy. When you have like a multi-million bagel fucking empire, that check will be hanging up in your big bag CEO office, and you can like do tours to high school students and be like, this is the first bagel I ever sold, and everyone can be like,
Previous. I love that.
Love it.
Guys, this has been such a phenomenal panel, and we're close to an hour, and unfortunately we don't have more time for Q&A, but I wanted each of our panelists to give our viewers one piece of advice that you would leave with our viewers for starting a side hustle, or something you've learned about yourself during the process of doing your side hustles. So Leeya, let's start with you.
I think it's a little bit of a jump off of what we were just talking about. And it was also Rudolph in the chat had a question like, do you regret not starting your hustle sooner? I don't regret. Wow. I don't regret.
This is why I didn't bring wine, girl.
I don't regret I haven't had that much. I don't regret the timing of any of the hustles or the side hustles or the projects I've started. Or when I've started, I just regret the ones that I let go of, and like I stopped because I didn't feel like it was like good enough. Like there was a time where I was illustrating, and this was at the height of like the adult coloring books phase, where people were just like, like they were scrounging up coloring books, and I had this like Black Girl Magic coloring book idea, and it was like the A through Z's of Black Girl Magic. And I had probably illustrated, let's say like 20 of the letters pages. And so it was pretty much done, but I was early in that mode of being like a perfectionist and feeling like it needed to be perfect before I put it out. And so I regret not putting that thing out, like especially back then. So I would say, yeah, that would be my biggest motive advice. Don't feel like something needs to be perfect, because especially if you know that it's the right moment for the thing and that you are like literally addressing something like a niche that you see open, don't feel like you need to like wait for the thing to be perfect in order to like put it out in the world. Because I do regret not putting that out then. I could probably still do it now. I should just like release it as a PDF or something. But that's one thing. And then, Yeah, I'll just end it there.
Okay, I'll go. I'm convinced that the best stories are defined by the emotions we feel, and eventually, my kids are gonna have portfolios, not necessarily a LinkedIn account where you can see every single rational decision we made, but the emotions that drove us to do the things that we did, and I think in the future, work is going to be defined by the projects we worked on and the mentors that taught us what we eventually became. So I see more and more side projects taking over and defining who we are, not just as people, but as professionals. So invest time on it because it's going to define you.
I love that. I do. Well, I guess the advice that I thought of was just to remember that you're the expert in your side hustle or your business or what your thing. Like I am the expert of Poppy Bagels. I'm not the expert of baking. I'm not the bagel expert. Like Leeya and Sharina, you guys are the experts of Bag of Lies, but maybe not of like all of podcasting, you know. But I think it's really important to remember that you know what's best for like your side hustle or your thing. And it's hard to get, or it's easy to get caught up in like, other people know more than me, or I haven't done this or that. And it's like, you have a great intuition on the thing that you're doing, and just try and like remember that. Listen to advice from other people, but ultimately go with your gut and do what feels right to you, because that's what's right.
That's so cute. I love all of this advice. Oh my gosh.
I love it.
It is. Oh, Malika, what's our advice? Girl, what's our advice? What's our advice? One piece real quick before we go.
Oh man, I'm not prepared, but I would just say don't let anything stop you from starting. There's never going to be a right time to start. So don't think that you have to have this or that set up or, you know, other things in play before you can start, you know, doing something that you're passionate about. You know, there's never going to be a right time.
Yeah, it's true. Definitely. There is never a right time. Just find the time, and then the time will start finding you. So
you will make time for the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
And one of the things that the group touched on earlier, way back, was that a lot of us are like early people, like morning people. And like you realize you maximize the most of your day when you have, you know, things to look forward to, and, you know, passion projects that you can't wait to start working on outside of the work that you're, you know, getting paid to do. So it's great in that way that it motivates you to wake up and get things done.
Well, thank you guys for being on our panel. I have learned a lot, honestly, on my own panel. It's been freaking great talking to you. And thank you to the Sideshow for hosting us. Just a quick plug for some of the other Sideshow projects, or Sideshow panels, sorry, that have happened. If you guys are interested in anything else happening this week, you can head to thesideshow.org, and there you can see the rest of the panels. There's like a beer, bourbon, and a movie. There's Invisible Creatives. There's Jeff Greenspan, who's doing a panel on making non-ads. So there's a lot of stuff happening. And thanks for joining us, friends. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.